Hi, this is Denise Matthew, and welcome to episode 40 of the Mandala of Life, 365 Days to Self-Discovery. Today we're moving away from tribal energy back into collective energy, away from the aloneness and the need to get away after you've done a hard day's work. Now we're moving into energy that is all about pressure, and it also comes with some level of confusion. Here it's the pressure to figure out the life experiences or the things that have happened to you in the past. And only when you have figured out exactly what it all meant does clarity and peace arrive. But the key to know with this energy is that the realizations only come in divine timing. As soon as we move to the head center, we know immediately that there are very few channels that actually connect the head center to the ajna. And also that the head center is only going to be defined when it's connected to the ajna, which ends up reducing the amount of people who have a defined head and ajna. Right now, it's approximately 70% of people have an open head and about 30% have a defined head and ajna. And as Ra Uru said, all people who have open heads are inspired by the people who have a defined head and ajna, meaning that anybody who has an open head is going to be influenced by the energy of one of the three head gate channels, the 6447, the 6124, and also the 63-4. Which means that these are special in a way because there's not much energy that is actually coming from the head. But the one thing that we can always say is that the head center is a pressure center, which means that it's always going to be pressure. And here it's pressure to figure things out. When we talk about the gate 64, we're talking about an energy that is abstract. There are no patterns or logic within this energy, and this is always going to be about the past. And as soon as we're talking about the past, we're talking about remembering something that's already happened to us. Some people say that we, in fact, can connect with the past experiences of the collective, that we can connect with superconsciousness through these energies of the head gates. Since abstract energy is not about patterns, we know that when something comes as a memory, it doesn't always come in the sequence of how it actually occurred, which means that we are always going to have some level of confusion within this energy before we get the clarity. But before we get into new content, let's quickly go over what we talked about in our last episode. In our last episode, we talked about the gate 40 and how it is one of the gates of aloneness, and also that it is one of the three oppositions, meaning the gate 40 is in opposition or opposed to the gate 37, but it also makes a harmonic channel, meaning that it makes a full channel from the emotional system to the will center, and also that more people can have this energy because of the nature of how it is. This is tribal energy, and it talks to the work that we need to do to be able to support the family. This is about family, bargains, contracts, and deals that are made. Here, a deal that is made is to be honored, and if it isn't, then there can be trouble within the energy. This can be the energy of the marriage contract or some kind of a deal where there's an exchange of resources for work done. The gate 40 is an energy that needs to have some alone time to recalibrate and also to recharge, because without the energy to recharge, there's potential for burnout. The gate 40 is also half of the mystical channel, the 3740. And if you want to find out more about the gate 40, please check out episode 39. With that said, let's get into new content. And please don't forget to check out the other episodes of the Mandala of Life. As I said, as soon as we get to the head gates, we're talking about pressure. This is always going to be pressure to figure things out. And another interesting thing about the gate 64 is that it is in opposition to the gate 63, meaning that whenever the sun or the earth is in the gate 64, then the sun or the earth is in the gate 63, highlighting the concept that we're always getting two head gates activated at the same time. When we talk about the energy of the mind and memories, we're seeing that whenever we have an experience in life, it isn't necessarily stored in a way that is easily accessible. It doesn't have the sequences of exactly how the event happened. Ra Uru described it as light going through a prism, which means that it breaks up all the energy of the light where all different colors are coming out, and they are not in any kind of sequence. And because this is not logical energy, to try and get the meaning of what exactly it all meant is something that takes time, and it also takes the energy of the gate 47. The gate 47 follows right after the gate 64. So the reality is that we will always get the gate 47 after we get the downloads of the gate 64. But having said that, we don't always know when this will actually happen, when we will get the clarity or the realizations and the aha moment so that we understand what it all meant. Since the nature of abstract energy is always about sharing, but before we share, we have to make sense of a memory. And here the memories need to be deciphered by the gate 47. This is the 6th gate of the Quarter of Duality, where purpose is fulfilled through bonding. The gate 64 is half of the channel of abstraction, or also called the channel of abstract thinking. This is the beginning of the abstract mental process. And there's a tremendous amount of mental activity within this energy. When you have the full channel, you can be considered somebody who has a very busy mind. And there can be a lot of different ideas that are floating around in your psyche, things that you're trying to figure out. And since there's a lot of data, it's important to try and figure out what is important and what isn't important. The filtering that the gate 47 does is a kind of thing that releases the pressure, and it gives the clarity for a little bit so that you can figure things out. Eventually, the confusion will come again with something new, but it will always get that release of pressure when we have the gate 47 filtering out the information, what exactly the event that happened to you or the experience that you went through meant for you in your life. The abstract process is all about experiencing the present moment so that you can reflect upon it in the past. It's all about memories, because when an experience is over, all that remains is the memory, meaning that memories are the most important part of abstract energy. We also know that because abstract energy begins in the solar plexus, there's always going to be some level of emotional connection to the memories that we have, meaning that the energy within the abstract process can have a lot more feeling attached to it. The gate 64 can be also considered a dreaming gate, especially if it's found on your design side or it's defined on the design side of your body graph. From a mystical perspective, this energy has potential to connect with the spirit realm and also spirit guides, as well as superconsciousness, to get downloads about things that have happened in the past. Many times people will build from the experiences of the past and tweak it in some way so that it can be brought into the present again. When you have this energy, there's potential for you to be more of a visual learner. And the one thing that we have to remember is that all awareness centers come with some level of anxiety or fear or unease. When it comes to the ajna, this is a mental anxiety, which means that when we don't know the meaning of the experiences that we've had in our lives, or that we don't feel there was any point in it, there can be anxiety that it wasn't actually worthwhile and that it was potentially a waste of time. But knowing that every experience in our life is important, and in some way it allows us to grow and to become somebody a little bit more evolved than we were before. Though the confusion is part of this energy, the ability to have transcendent moments or impactful moments of clarity makes it all worthwhile. If we have patience and an ability to understand and know that the universe will give us the answers in divine timing, there's potential to have amazing insights and realizations that only come when the timing is exactly right. But since today we're talking about the gate 64, let's talk about the hanging gate 64. All harmonics and all channels work together. That's a given. But there are some that are very intricately interwoven. And when we talk about the 6447, that is the energy that is intricately interwoven. When we get the gate 64 on its own, we only have the pressure, but we don't have the realization that comes after we have things filtered or the information is decoded in a way that we know what it means. This is all about thinking. Anything that is in the head is always going to be about thinking and being inspired. It can be a lot of inspiration that's coming all the time that you don't really have a break from. Now, when we look at the gate 64 or any of the head gates that don't have connection to the ajna, we're only having the pressure and you could say the fuel that fuels the ajna to come up with the awareness or to get the clarity. So when we don't have that connection, we're thinking about, it's almost like you have a bubble gum in a bubblegum machine and you put the money in and it never comes down. So in other words, all this inspiration is kind of floating around in the head center where there's no clarity. But knowing that the 47 or the gate 47 will always be at some point given to us, or we'll have connection with it through planetary transits or through electromagnetics. But that doesn't mean that you're not going to have this pressure and confusion and this need to understand exactly what those downloads that you're getting mean. Because we know that when we do get the downloads, it's all about these sequences being out of order. It isn't in order. And so when we get the 47, it does filter it, and it does allow you to kind of understand what it all meant. This is also a projected channel, or half of a projected channel, which means that it's something that needs to be called out of us before we are going to be received in a way that we want to be received. And people will listen to our inspirations. This is all about stimulating other people with your ideas. There's no patterns or logic, as I said. This can be the energy of philosophers, idealists, and also ideologies. Anything above the throat or all the head and ajna energy is all considered outer authority or our mind. And from a human design perspective, anything that is considered our outer authority or our mind is to be given to other people. So the energy and the ideas that are circulated here are for sharing. In other words, this is outer authority. This is what we give to the world from a mind perspective. Now, we know that the outer authority is not like the inner authority. Our inner authority is our strategy, and that is how we navigate through the world. The outer authority, or the mind, is something that can have a lot of insights and valuable information to share with other people, but it's not really the place to make decisions about our life. That's where we go with our inner authority. And another thing to remember about the gate 64 is that it's abstract energy, meaning that it comes in cycles with a beginning, a middle, and an end. And that can talk to the idea that there's a beginning, a middle, and an end to the aha moments or the realizations that we get. When we see the mind as a place to contemplate, to ponder, to think about the things that have happened in our lives and to make sense of them, and to also know that this is not the place where we make our decisions. In fact, we make our decisions with the inner authority. Then it can be a place of enjoying the experiences of thinking, enjoying the experiences of reminiscing, and enjoying the experiences of finding those transcendent moments that just kind of come out of nowhere, where we actually see the clarity in the world around us, the clarity in living. This is about experiencing life. And the key word for this from the Ravi Ching says, the transition, like birth, requires a determined strength for the passage through, which talks to the idea that if we have patience and know that divine timing will bring the answers and the awareness, we can rest in the idea of allowing the thoughts to be and to see them as they are and let them go when it's time to move on to something new. This isn't about getting lost in your thoughts. It's about experiencing the downloads, understanding that eventually you'll know what they all mean, and living your life in the interim. When we recognize that the gate 64 is a confusion that comes before the clarity, and it's a place where we can figure out what the experiences of our life meant for us, and also what the relationships that we were involved in, how they changed us, how they impacted our world and our lives. This is a place where we can figure things out so that we can grow in some way, so that we can evolve. And this evolution comes from living in the Maya, living in the world, and experiencing life. And when we've made peace with the confusion that can come before the clarity, the mandala of life turns again, and we come to the gate of realization, where the pressure to figure things out is finally relieved. This is the gate 47, the gate of realization, half of a design of mental activity mixed with clarity. This is where the awareness and the experiences of life are given meaning. Well, that's all for now, and I'll be back soon with episode 41, the gate 47, the gate of oppression. Until then, take care, and I'll see you again soon.